Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today I thought I'd do a fountain pen showdown looking at two hooded nibbed pens. First one, Jinhao 51a, fairly new pen to me. The second, the Wingsung 601, a pen that I've had now for about 18 months. Join me now down on the mat. We'll take a look at these pens, we'll walk through the bodies, do some size comparisons, weights and measures, a writing sample, and then I'll give you my thoughts on these. Welcome down to the table. So the two pens, Jinhao 51a and the Wingsung 601. Battle of the hooded nibs. I like the material on this one. Just look at that. Very pretty. The 601 looks a lot plainer, but it's just classy. Let's take a walk through the body. I'm not going to focus too much on actually going through the bodies in detail. What we're going to focus on more really is where the differences are. So in terms of shape, they're very, very similar. In terms of length, the Jinhao 51a, a little bit longer, we'll see when we look at the measurements. The caps, both metal caps, but we've got different types of clip there. We've got the ball here, very, very stiff. We've got more of a, I want to say a Parker-esque type clip, but again, can't get my fingers around it. Both metal, but different colours. The Wingsung, it's a more silvered colour, where here we've got more of a, I want to say a slightly earthier tone, like a little bit browner. Both have next to no drop off down to the body. Of the two, I would say the Jinhao, that's got the one that's more noticeable. As we've seen, they've both got very similar shaped body, but I do like the material here. I think that looks quite pretty. There's a lot of choices of materials as well with the Jinhao 51a. The big difference between them is here. This is on the Wingsung 601. You can't see a line, you can't feel a line, but you can unscrew the end. And that reveals a pump. This is how we fill this pen. It's a pump filler. It's not a cartridge converter. Just pop this back together. You know, you can't see the seam when that's on. I think that's really good. The Jinhao 51a, as I say, that's a cartridge converter. It does come with a converter though. Another big difference, because this is this pump filler, we've got there an ink window. Hopefully you can see that. So it's not a continuous window, it's like little rectangles that you can use to look in. I've already taken the cap off this. As you can see, it was a pull-off cap. Jinhao 51a, also a pull-off cap. Another difference between the two, this has just got a plain black section, whereas on the Wingsung 601, the colour of the section matches in here with the colour of the body. When you look at the section, I'm going to just turn these around this way. And you can see the nibs there, hooded nibs. I won't do a close-up of the nibs, you can't really see much of them. But they both look very similar. You know, if you'd have pushed me to it, I'd have said they were the same pen. That's how similar they look. It's just colouring that's different. Let's pop the caps back on. We'll swap over now and we'll look at some size comparisons. First pens I've brought in, my standards, the Pilot Metropolitan and the Lamy Safari. All four pens to my eye look very much of a similar size. Let's pop the caps off. With the caps off, I've got to be honest, again, they all look very much of a similar size to me. Yes, we've got a different shape with the Safari. The pen, you know, there's a 51a, nice to use and posted. Bit narrow in the section. Same with the 601, nice to use and posted. I don't post either of these pens. Let's swap over and we'll look at some pens in roughly the same price range. This is where we start to see some sort of differences. The pens I brought in is a Pen BBS 494. that was 8 Aussie dollars. The Jinhao 51a, that was 8 Aussie dollars. The Wingsung 601, that was 27 Aussie dollars, so more than 3 times the cost. And then I've also brought in a Mahjong T5, and that was 27 Aussie dollars. The T5 is a piston filler. The 494, that's actually a piston filler as well. Then we've got that pump filler here with the Wingsung 601 and the cartridge converter with the Jinhao 51a. Let's pop the caps on. With the caps on, very similar to what we saw with the unposted view. Ortho pens, very similar size. We'll swap on over and we'll fetch in the rule of measuring. Here we've got the rule of measuring. So let's start by looking at the Jinhao 51a. So it's length with the cap on. Get that lined up. Although it looks longer on here, when I used my calipers it was 13.8 centimetres. And this was also 13.8 centimetres. So they were both very much a similar length. When I look at here though, I do see the 51a does look like it's that couple of millimetres longer. Let's take the cap off. So with the cap off, with the 51a, that comes in at 12.8 centimetres. And so does the Wingsung 601. So again, we've got the same length. Posted. Let's post these both. We'll start with the 601 this time. So posted, looking about 15.2 centimetres. And with the Jinhao, again, we're looking very similar, about 15.2 centimetres. The widths of the bodies, with the 51a, that comes in at 1.11. With the 601, that's 1.16, so a little bit wider. The section, the caps, with the 51a, that's 1.25 centimetres, but it's 1.16 here with the 601. So again, we've got a slight difference, this time in favour of the 51a. The sections, with the 51a, the narrowest, which I measured about here, is 0.8 centimetres, up to the widest of 1.08 centimetres. With the 601, it's 0.8 up to 1.17. So again, goes slightly wider. Let me just pop these back down and we'll swap over and fetch in the scales of weighing. So here we've got the scales of weighing. We'll start with the 51A. So the whole pen, 21 grams. 601, 20 grams. Could be down to the amount of ink though that's in the converter. I don't think there's as much ink left in the 601. The bodies, the 51A, 12 grams. And we've got 13 grams there for the 601. And caps, the 51A, 9 grams, 601, 9 grams. All in all, they're virtually identical. And just to prove that, what I've done is I put the caps on the wrong pen. So this is the Wingsung cap on the 51A and the 51A's cap on the Wingsung. Let's swap these back. They both fit perfectly fine. Let's swap on over and fetch in the notepad of testing. Here we've got the notepad of testing. This is Oxford Optic paper, 90 GSM paper, very nice fountain pen friendly paper. So we're going to start with the Jinhao 51A. So we've got here Jinhao 51A. It's a fine. As I've already said, it cost me a whopping 8 Aussie dollars. The ink is by Diamine. And it's Oxblood. I know, not exactly a match for the body, but I wanted to use the same ink in both of them. Drying times, we go immediate, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, virtually dry there. To be honest, it's not really worth me doing a 1 minute test because of the little amount of smudging. Is there any line variation? So this is no pressure. If I had a bit of pressure, don't see much difference really. None with, none with, none and with. It's nice, it's quite enjoyable to write with. Let's move the mic and write a sentence. That's nice, enjoyable to write with. The one thing I will say, could be because it's a fine nib, but it feels like it's catching on the paper from time to time. Now, this isn't a coated paper, but it's nice and smooth. And I could feel it like catching and digging in slightly. Is there any flow problems? Let's have a look. We've got the other direction. Works really well, flows really well, no flow issues. Move the page up ever so slightly. Now we'll write with the Wingsung 601. So again, it's a fine nibbed pen, $27. So you could get 3 51As for the price of one 601. The ink, said I've got the same ink in both of these. It's running quite low in this pen, but it's Diamine Oxblood. I do like this ink in this pen. I think they're a really good match for each other. Drying times, so we go immediate. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. Similar story to what we saw with the 51A, virtually dry there at 30 seconds. Line variation, so there's no pressure, that's with some pressure, and then none with, none with, none and with. We'll move the mic and write the sentence. And the flow test. Again, really nice. So what are my thoughts on these pens? If you were to say, Gary, are these the same pen? I would say yes, they are. They are virtually identical. Not a lot of differences in them. Yes, the filling mechanism. Yes, the looks. But in terms of everything else, they seem virtually identical. I believe they're both modelled, I believe it's the Parker 51. They are nice pens though, they're really pleasant to use. Let's start with pen looks though. I like this material. There are a number of different materials available. I think it looks nice, but a bit busy to take to a meeting. With the 601, classy. I could quite happily take this to a business meeting to sign something important and not feel like an idiot when I pull it out and everyone looking thinking, what's that he's got? So looks, I say, two minds. I like the classiness, but I also like the little bit of interest as well. Build quality, had no issues with them. I've had the 601 nearly 2 years. I've had the 51A since Christmas, so about 5 months now. Had no issues with build quality. With the threads, nice and smooth. Converter works nice. Converter fits nice. Nib, consistent. Same with this one though. Consistent nib. I just have to remember here about the way that we've got this cap because it does feel a bit, well, not tight, but because I can't see or feel the join, it makes me think that it's one solid bit of material like we see with the 51A. Writing experience, very, very similar again. Both of them feel like they're catching the paper as I'm writing. I think it's because it's a fine nib. I'm not really a fine nib person. They're both pleasant, they're both nice. I'm not saying they're not. They both let me do what is needed. They let me get ideas out of my head and onto paper in a way that I enjoy. So for writing experience, I can't pick between them, I've got to be honest. Ink flow, we'll take a look here at the Tomoe River paper. So starting with the 51A, we can see no issues with ink flow. I've used both of these pens for writing multiple page notes and they worked fine, had no ink flow issues with that. We're getting nice colour on there. Let's jump. Here we've got the 601. Let me just move my post-it notes so we get that out of the way. Again, very similar. It looks virtually identical. Trouble is, I've got that many pages. I should have put a post-it there. The line looks similar. The ink flow is similar. As I said, you'd really push for me to say that they're different pens. I really think they would be the same model. Comfort, find them both a bit too thin here in the section. It's the nature of the pen. I like my pens which are wider. It's not uncomfortable, and because you've got no real shape to it, you could hold the pen up here, you can hold the pen down here, really down to you. I just find it's too thin. It is nice to use the unposted. They will post, but I don't tend to do that. Value for money. Let's be honest, $8, let me just straighten the page up whilst I'm talking, versus $27. 3 of these for 1 of these. Yes, it's got that piston mechanism or that pump mechanism for filling it. Cartridge converter. Slightly more ink, change your ink more often so you can experiment and play around with it. The value for money is where, to me, these two do get separated, because I think the 51A is more value for money given it's only $8 than the $27 601. But the 601 is still good value for money. I mean, it's $27. You can't get many pens for 27 Aussie dollars. But they're my thoughts on the Jinhao 51A and the Winsung 601, both with Diamine Oxblood. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. What do you think of these pens? Have you got any hooded nibbed pens? What are your tips really for getting the best performance? Why not drop a comment down below? Let's kickstart a conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.